Hey, this video is for the asset library. It's a tool I've been working on in my free time for Unreal 5.2 to 5.4. And this tool is a browser for assets that we've tagged in the content browser, and is kind of a supplement to the content browser. Effectively a place that we can tag assets and browse them no matter where they live. And they might be in different folders, maybe even different plugins in the project. And so this is a quick way to browse all of the assets that we've tagged as important that we want to be able to see as like primary assets effectively. And so yeah, this is the UI. It's available in the content browser in the top left. There is a new button for asset lib, and I will go ahead and open it for us. So these are assets that I've added to the system. And we can already see, there's a tile for each asset. It's telling us the Unreal type of the asset, and it also provides a display name. And we can double click on these assets to focus to them in the content browser. So it's effectively, a +1 system for the favorites system in a sense. There are different colors for the tiles in here. And what these refer to are the asset types in the library. So the very first drop down here, I can look at different assets. So like props, environments, or characters, and you can kind of see like each asset type has its own color. And so the separation of like the Unreal type from the asset library type is that like characters are a great example of this, where we might have a proxy stand-in for a character before it's fully rigged. There's not a skeletal mesh, so we might have just a normal static mesh available in here as a proxy representation. We might also have the skeletal mesh that is perfectly valid, for any animations that we have made for it. Or if we were doing some more cinematic stuff, we can also have a control rig as well that's registered into the system. They're all character assets, but they're of different Unreal types. Beyond the asset type itself, for environments in particular, you might want a second level of organization. And so that's the category, or cat for short. And these are added when an asset is added to the system. We can declare additional categories. So I might only want to see the rocks. I might only want to see the assets tagged for grass, and so forth. So that gives us a second level there. We can also do a text input to find assets that might match certain key text or phrases. So for this example, just typing in BO, I do get book stands, which are kind of obvious because that's in their name right here. However, for other assets, it does also check the name of the asset in the content browser. So the official name is CR Mannequin Body, but it's only Quinn CR in the asset library. So it does look at both the display name in the library and also the name of the asset on disk. So there's also options there. Beyond being able to double click on it to focus in the content browser, there is also some simple support for click and drag into the viewport. So you can do that to click and drag an asset, and it will spawn wherever you let go underneath your mouse. So this kind of gives us a little bit more control over the operation to spawn assets. And that might be handy for things like the grass is a good example, where, if we're spawning a bunch of grass in here, we don't really want them to collide with each other. So we might want controls to manage that so that we can go ahead and get our grass, and super cool. All right, that's how we wanted it, and there's no intersections. But sometimes you might want to intentionally put them on top of each another asset that was placed by the system, such as placing a book onto the book stand. Well, like the grass, it kind of spawned back there. But there are some settings we can actually change in here as well. So the very top right corner are the settings. So if I click on that, it'll open up the settings panel. So I'll just go over these here in a few steps, but the first one I want to point out, is the ability to ignore placed assets. So if I uncheck that, it will then respect assets that were placed by the system. So when I try this again, it will actually spawn the book on the book stand. Another setting is also to align to surface, which if that is turned off, it'll use a default rotation when I place the asset. So, it won't align to whatever the normals are that you click and dragged onto. So you have options for both of those. And lastly, the main settings for spawning assets have to do with either selecting after it's placed and how far to search for something underneath the mouse when you go to do this. So if you click out into the void, it's going to spawn underneath the mouse, but kind of close to the viewport. And if you're really far zoomed out, it might say that, well, that's way too far. Maybe you didn't mean to spawn it, 5 miles away. So it'll still leave it close to the viewport for you. So you can do that as well. And this is all really kind of managed by tags as well. So like, for example, the ignore placed assets. If I were to, drag this book in here, obviously it's ignoring it and placing it out over there. However, it's really just, based off of tags is all it really is. So I could also get rid of the tag and that would also work as well. So yeah, there's all the settings for spawning assets. We do have some UI options as well. So we can make the entries larger or smaller in the UI, depending on like the resolution of your screen is a good example. And also we have the ability to add and remove assets from the system as well. So by default, the add entry button will always be visible. However, the delete button to remove assets is hidden. So I'm going to enable the delete button and I'll use the book as an example here. I can go ahead and press the RM button for remove, and that will remove it from the system. So now if I look for books, it's not available anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that. And if I go to the very bottom of my list in any view, there's going to be this plus icon here for adding a new entry. This will open up a panel where I can declare my assets I want to add. So I'll go ahead and drag the book over from the content browser, and I'll go ahead and give it a display name and also tell the asset library what type of asset it is and what category I want it to belong to. So this will be my book open. Oh, don't know how to type today. It's an environment asset, so that's good. And I actually don't like any of these options that are currently available. So I'm going to select the new entry option at the very bottom because I want to declare a new category for this asset. So this will let me type into this box to say I want to start a new book category. So I'll go ahead and register my book open to Enver book, hit OK, and now this will be available for me. Cool. I can go ahead and add multiple assets one at a time. So this might be, I'll just have it as like, book 03 here. So that'll be book 3. Then I'll go ahead and just get, book 2 and book 1 as well in here. And those are all now books. I might decide that I also kind of want the book stand to be alongside those because it is kind of book related. So we can also kind of cheat this a little bit to use it to modify existing assets. So this is already tagged by the system. So it kind of already saw what the display name was and where everything was set for it. But I can use this to say, all right, I want to go ahead and declare this is a book asset. So this will kind of help realign it to be a book asset now in the system. So now if I go back to book, there it is. But yeah, so that's the asset library. It is free to use, and hopefully, people find it interesting, hopefully helpful. But yeah, give it a try and let me know what you think.